welcome back to the Uncle Sharma channel. Back again with my new feature for the channel, things that we learned about Inter in the last week or so. Did it last week, seems like a few of you enjoyed it, so I thought let's bring it back. Let's go again, see what we've learned about this team and Antonio Conte in the past week. And also we're going to be doing a Torino preview, and I'll leave the timestamp for that underneath, so if you want to skip to that, to the Torino preview for the match tomorrow, you can do that. I don't know how long this is going to be. It's going to be a little bit of a discussion. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, get off my chest. Yeah, hope you enjoy. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoy. So it's been a bit of a crazy week if you're an Inter fan. So much negativity, team dropping points, a lot of pressure going on Conte, the media, people saying that Conte might be quitting, people wanting Conte out, people wanting Conte in. It's just been crazy if you're an Inter fan. And I just wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on everything that's been going on. One of the main topics people have been discussing is the 3-5-2 formation. Is that the problem? You know, is it the formation that's the problem? Is it Antonio Conte? Well, first of all, we can clarify that 3-5-2 as a formation is not a problem. Okay, we look at the table. Who's second? Who's third? Atalanta and Lazio. They both use 3-5-2 formation, or a variation of the 3-5-2 formation. Atalanta's is more of a 3-4-1-2, kind of what we're using right now. So we can cut that one short. The 3-5-2 formation is not a problem. Well, again, we look at the table in terms of the top scoring teams. Who are the top scorers? Atalanta and Lazio. And Inter not too far back with 65 goals scored, just behind Juve. So guys, the formation is not the problem. Is the formation fitting to the players that Inter have? Now that's probably a better question. That's a better critique to Antonio Conte. And it's kind of confusing actually, the whole formation thing, because Antonio Conte a few weeks ago saw his interview with Sky Sports in England, and he was talking about how a coach should be like a tailor who creates the suit around the players that he has, which I thought was a great quote, because you know that's the sign of a great manager or coach, is the one that kind of fits in around to what he has. But funnily enough, ironically, Antonio Conte is what I would say is the exact opposite. He's one of those coaches out there that kind of forces the players to play his style. You go back to every single one of his teams, you can almost, you know, copy and paste the style of football, the formations, the style of player in each position is always almost the same. You know, there needs to be one big striker and one smaller striker next to him. Wants to be one sort of destroying midfielder and two kind of roaming box-to-box midfielders. The wing backs have to be athletic up and down the whole match, and then you have one centre back who's comfortable on the ball, and the two right centre back, left centre back, almost like full back hybrids. And that's, especially when it comes to our defenders, I think that's where the issue comes in. Especially when we look at Skriniar and Godin. Now Skriniar has received a lot of criticism from Inter fans, quite rightly so. You know, his performance levels haven't been at that same level, but essentially he's pretty much playing out position if you think about it. So we can see here the average positions of Skriniar. I've taken like a random match from the season, so this was taken from Inter Sampdoria earlier on in the season where we beat them 2-1, and then I've took his average position from Inter Sampdoria from last season under Spalletti. You can see there, obviously he was playing left centre back under Spalletti, which obviously is a different position, but even if he was playing right centre back and you take De Vrij's position from last season, you can see the movement already. He's already 5-10 yards closer to the byline, and a lot of the time he's in that position, especially under Conte, he almost ended up playing like a fullback. That goal we conceded against Verona, the first one on the counter with Lazovic 1v1 against Skriniar, he's basically in the fullback, in the right back's position there, where there's a long ball over the top and he has to cover for the position there, and you know he's 1v1 against someone who's one of the quickest players in Serie A, one of the best 1v1 dribblers in the league. And then the same thing goes for Godin. I think, you know, Godin was signed when Spalletti was still in charge. You know, we agreed the deal with him around February, March time, according to reports. So in his mind, he was probably coming to a team that was playing 4-2-3-1. He probably had no clue about Conte coming in. I'm not sure if it was even discussed at that time with his agent or whatever. So in my mind, I'm not even sure if Godin would have come to Inter if he knew that Conte was coming in, you know, playing this formation. And even if he was, he would probably prefer to be the centre as I've said many times, I think all of our centre-backs would probably prefer playing where De Vrij plays, apart from Bastoni. I think Bastoni is the only one that's really suited to this formation, even though he's not really played it before. But you can tell he's very comfortable playing this kind of hybrid role where he has a lot of the ball. And, having this overlapping centre-back thing that we've kind of implemented this season as well, which is a new thing I haven't seen Conte doing before. It really requires a player that's very comfortable running with the ball, and he has to be quite, athletic. I've seen Skriniar's running stats in some matches. He's in the top 5 for running stats in terms of kilometers covered, which is really rare for a centre back. Normally centre backs have usually the lowest in terms of kilometers covered, but in our formation, the right centre back and left centre back, they're so active in going up and down. It's really a rare. It's very different for Skriniar, and we've seen this whole season now that he's not suited to this formation, and neither is Godin. And Antonio Conte doesn't seem to be able to adapt to that. Obviously, you could say that we don't really have the wing backs now, not really suited. If we change to a 4 at the back formation, do we really have the full backs to cope with that? Maybe not. Once again, Biraghi, Ashley Young, and Candreva, and Moses on the right, they're not really made for a 4 at the back formation where you need a little bit more. Your defending is a lot more, has to be at a higher level. You could say that, that this is the best of what Conte could get, but we've seen that he really has struggled to adapt. So I think one of the things that we are seeing is the lack of tactical adaptation that Conte has. There was that 3-5-2, as I mentioned earlier. The way that Atalanta and Lazio play is very different, even though the systems are quite similar. But in the end, the instructions for individual players are different. We can see that here. I think one of the clearest factors that show how different we play compared to other teams that play a similar formation is when we look at the number of kilometers covered by each team on average each match. And Inter, almost 3 kilometers more than each team on average, which is, you can see the differences there. All the teams there are around the 109 and 108 mark, and very close, almost no difference. But then Inter's difference from the first to second is almost 3 kilometers, which is a lot. That's a big difference on average. So it means that each player is covering a lot more ground compared to other players. It just shows like this Conte's system relies so much on physicality and the athleticism, and it's showing now. If our team is covering 3 kilometers more each match, you can really tell that out there on the last few matches, the players look dead on their feet. It also makes sense of why all these injuries are coming. A lot of people blaming Pintus, the physical preparator, but Conte's system really is built on outrunning the other team. Even though we have the possession in most of the matches, we have more possession than the other team. It takes so much effort to be a part of a Conte team, and the players can tell you. Lukaku said it in an interview a few months ago where he was talking about, the level of training in the Inter is next level compared to what it was at Man United. And that's not an Italian thing, that's an Antonio Conte thing. Usually, from what I've heard from players, they say that training in Italy is a little bit easier in terms of the intensity, because it's a more tactical thing. But with Conte, it's full on 100% tactical and with the physical side of things. So that's another, critique that you could have of Conte there, where, does the team really need to be running so much? Like, usually the top teams, they make the other team run with the ball. So especially when you have more of the possession, the other team should be doing more of the running, trying to cover and trying to double up on your players. It doesn't really seem to work like that in the Conte team, and is that the reason why this team is looking so dead out on their feet? And I think it probably is. And another thing that backs that kind of statement up is another thing that we've learned in this past week or so, but this has been a problem that's carried over since Spalletti, which is the team has a lot of useless possession. We see the stats here. Napoli are the team with the most average possession in the match with around 30 minutes. Then Juve, then Atalanta, then Inter, which you think, it's a good thing. But then you see there where it says propria metacampo, which means possession in your own half. And that's Inter have more possession in their own half compared to the other teams there, almost as much as Sassuolo, that's the empty possession, that's useless possession. That's De Vrij, Skriniar, Handanovic, Godin, Bastoni just passing it in between each other, slowing the tempo down. It's not incisive, there's no purpose to that type of possession. It's not moving anyone anywhere. Usually the teams that like to wait for us deep in their half, that type of possession doesn't do anything. It doesn't draw them out. So that's a problem that we've had it for a long time. You know, when teams they counter-attack us very easily because we commit a lot of men forward. We did that in Spalletti. We're doing that now under Conte as well. You know, with this overlapping centre-back thing as well. We're trying to create this numerical superiority. We're trying to create overlaps, which is all good, but we're struggling to actually create chances. And when we give away the ball in silly areas, the teams counter-attack us so easily. We've seen that against Sassuolo, we saw that against Verona. We saw that on Spalletti, especially at home, when, you know, the crowd will be getting against us. It'll be 70 minutes, we haven't managed to break the team down. We commit men forward and power, they hit us on the counter, and that's it. So that's definitely an issue that we've been dragging over, and then Conte doesn't seem to have found a way around it. Although, on the other hand, we do score goals, especially since we've come back from the break. Inter have been the highest scoring team in the league. Obviously, there's that outlying match against Brescia where we scored 6 goals. But even so, we've been scoring quite a lot. But on the other hand, we've been conceding a lot as well. Another stat that backs up, you know, our problem with being counter-attacked so easily is the amount of saves that we've actually made in the season, or Handanovic has had to make. If we look, we're actually at the bottom of the league table in terms of saves made. So 76, we're right at the bottom with Atalanta, which means, you know, usually we don't concede that many chances, but in the end, when we concede them, it's a shot that Handanovic doesn't manage to save. Another thing that I've learned this week, and I think we've seen over the season, and I think it's not a surprise to many. I think it's a surprise if you haven't watched Antonio Conte teams in the past, and I touched on this at the beginning of the season when Conte first came in. I was like, you know, we used to make fun of Spalletti for crossing Inshallah, you know, crossing a Candreva Perisic, just lobbing it into the middle of the box, hoping Icardi's there. That crossing Inshallah tactic isn't gone anywhere. It's still there, very strong, very well, and we are still the highest crossing team in the league with 219 crosses, the same amount as Lecce. You know, with the wing backs, the style of play is very much, you know, still looking towards looking for the strikers in the middle, the 2 strikers in the middle, or the runs from midfield. You know, one thing that we have to give Conte credit for is that it's not the only tactic. We do try to go through the middle as well. So we try to look for that long ball to Lukaku, who tries to lay off to Lautaro, or the other way around. So we have tried different tactics. There's more ways into the box now for us. But in the end, when teams defend deep and, you know, they come towards the middle, the only way to try to break them down is go wide. We have really wide players now with the wing backs pushing wide, and that's the only way in a lot of the times. One other thing I've learned in this past week is obviously it's not something that you probably have seen, and, you know, it's not something that's only for Inter fans, but our fan base is so reactionary, man. Like, it's crazy. I don't know if you guys have seen it. The hashtag Conte out hashtag has been trending last few days since the Verona match. People are really turning on him, and it's so reactionary. I mean, I've said, you know, of course everyone has the right to criticize Conte. You know, he's come with a big reputation, big salary, big demands, big expectations, and right now the results are not really the best. So he definitely deserves some criticism, and I've been criticizing him the last few weeks, especially when it comes to substitution and the rotation and the way he could have, you know, managed energies a bit better. But, you know, let's put things into perspective. It's his first season, and, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, Spalletti would have done better with his team, blah 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 blah. We've lost 4 less matches than last season, 4. So at this stage last year, we've already had lost 8 matches. So, you know, you can have a little bit of a short memory when it comes to things. And in terms of points, we're on plus 8 points compared to last season, and I'm very confident that we'll end up at least at plus 10 or plus 12 compared to last season. For me, that's a big improvement. The fact that we're going to secure the Champions League qualification at a much earlier stage, that's a massive plus. So you definitely can't argue with that being an improvement, because the headache the last 2 years have caused us, I don't want to go through that ever again. We're not going to go through that ever again, because we're already 11 points ahead of Roma, who are in 5th, and, you know, we've got a match in hand compared to them. I'm confident that we'll have this Champions League qualification secured. On top of that, we've scored 65 goals compared to 47 goals that we had scored last season at this point, which is, you know, big substantial improvement. Obviously, that's come at the expense of us conceding 7 goals compared to last season. You know, all in all, 18 goals more scored and 7 goals more conceded. I'd take that in the end, you know, a little bit more attacking, a few more goals, more chances created. I'll take that. And we've lost the least matches in the league alongside Juve, which shows it's not all doom and gloom. It's just ever since we've come back from the break, we haven't been at our best, definitely. But look at Lazio and Atalanta. How long have Gasperini and Inzaghi had those teams? They're in their third and fourth years coaching the teams. They've needed the time to get their players, to get the players used to the system. Conte's just come in. It's a completely different system. We've been playing with 4 at the back for the last 7-8 seasons, apart from the Mazzarri era. The players need time to adapt. It's a completely different way of playing. The intensity of the system requires a special level of athleticism. So give the man some time. This Conte out hashtag is absolutely ridiculous. Criticize him, but firing a guy at this stage, obviously you could criticize him for maybe should have done better in the Coppa Italia, should have done better in the Champions League, yes. But in general, first year, getting all these new players used to the system, I think he's doing fine. I'm happy to give him faith, and I have faith in Antonio Conte. We've seen Lazio dropping points now. They lost to Lecce, they lost to Sassuolo yesterday. Juve dropping points, but Lazio not taking advantage of it. Juve have pretty much secured the title now, but I don't see Lazio fans tweeting Inzaghi out, just because they're dropping points. This is the best chance they ever had to have a title. And we see that, as I always said since the beginning, they haven't had the squad depth. Just as we don't have the squad depth, they don't really have the squad depth. As soon as Immobile, Caicedo, Correa, someone is injured, there's not proper substitutes in place, and Juve, the squad is too good. So guys, calma, let's calm down. Yeah, those were my learnings from the past week or so. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on my learnings from this week, about the 3-5-2 formation, about Conte compared to the Atalanta and Lazio, and what do you think about the Interisti's reaction on this whole Conte out situation. Let me know in the comments below. Now we can move on to the preview for the next match tomorrow against Torino. It's a struggling Torino team. It's not the Torino team from past season. The Mazzarri, they seemed like they were doing well in past seasons, but this year the wheels fell off and the Mazzarri was fired in February. The current coach Longo has been brought in. Seems to be trying to continue that 3-4-3, 3-5-2 formation that Mazzarri played, but the results have not been backing him ever since Mazzarri is gone. Since they've come back, they've had 3 losses. They won the last match against Brescia, but as we know, Brescia pretty much one off, if not the worst team in the league. The league goes for fun. In general, there's not much threat that I see from them, apart from obviously the obvious threat, which is Andrea Belotti, the star striker, who's been up and down form this year. But his aerial threat and ability to bring people into the game is something to be on the lookout for, definitely. And apart from that, it's a big gap after Belotti. There's Berenguer, and Ansaldi, of all people, is the 3rd top scorer. Once again, similarly to the Verona match, because they'll be lining up with such a similar formation, at the end of the game will end up being, a lot of 1v1s. Players needed to make things happen on their own. There'll be a lot of 1v1 battles where they're doing one man-to-man marking. In terms of the predicted lineups, once again, same formation, 3-4-1-2 seems to be our go-to formation with Conte. No changes there. As we've said, it doesn't seem like he's ready to try something different. Bastoni should be back in the lineup after his little injury niggle. De Vrij and Skriniar should retain their places there, because they are the best we have. Could say that maybe D'Ambrosio would deserve to start, because he's probably the perfect man to play that hybrid role between centre back and full back. But I think Antonio Conte will stick with Skriniar. And we see here the scored predicted lineup has Ashley Young and Candreva starting. Candreva has to play because Victor Moses is still out injured. Ashley Young probably will retain his place ahead of Biraghi unless Conte opts to rotate. Now the midfield is where we keep having issues. Brozovic is back, but he doesn't seem to still be back at 100%. I think he's being forced to play even though he's not back to full fitness. He was substituted the last match around the 70th minute. Gagliardini, he's doing his job. He's not doing too badly, at least now. But he's just 6 out of 10 performances. That's the best we can ask from him. And Eriksen should come back into the team because Valero can't play 2 matches in a row, and he was completely dead out on his feet at the end of the Verona match, and he was at fault for that. second goal conceded. Eriksen should come back in, but we need to see something different from Eriksen in terms of, I'm sure Antonio Conte is expecting something else from Eriksen. There's been reports saying that he's not happy with the intensity Eriksen has been putting into training or into the match as well in terms of his pressing. We know Conte, he expects different high levels of intensity when you're playing in a Conte team. I hope Eriksen gives him that, because we need Eriksen in this team. We need him to be firing at his best, because he's a world-class player and we need his world-class ability to get us out of this bad period. Lukaku had a bit of an issue in the last match with his back, and reports are saying that he might not be fit to start, which is a big minus for us. It's a big problem. We rely a lot on Lukaku with his back to goal play. But as I said in the past, if it's going to be this midget false nine type of formation with Lautaro and Sanchez up front, I quite like it, because they move around a lot more than Lukaku does. They seem to link up a better than Sanchez and Lukaku do. Obviously, Lautaro out of form is not ideal, but still could be a very good attacking formation with Eriksen in behind those guys giving no reference. They're moving all around the place. I think they could give that very poor Torino defense a big headache, and I'm expecting us to win. I know I keep saying this every match, but I'm expecting us to turn the corner around. Everyone keeps dropping points. If we win this match, we go second, which is crazy to believe with our form, but that's how bad everyone else's form has been. And obviously with Atalanta jumping up the rankings, it's very important that we keep up with Atalanta and we don't let points drop. If Lazio keep dropping points, might as well drop them down to fourth place, because their form hasn't deserved to be second place recently. So I'm hoping for a win. I think I'm expecting a 2-1 win. Let me know in the comments below for your predictions. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you for a positive post-match review. And I hope you enjoyed this kind of longer form video. I hope you watched the whole of it, or if you even skipped some bits of it, I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.